So before I can dye these mulberry silk caps, here they go, and there they are. Before I can dye these, I need to soak them in some water. Preferably you want to do it overnight because you could soak it for an hour. And as you've seen me do dyed silk before in the roving trays, they always come out mottled, not completely saturated all the way through. You really want to soak them completely 12 to 24 hours, so overnight. And I'm going to do this, I'm going to get some tissue silk and I'm going to do the exact same thing and leave that there, and I'll dye them all together. So I've just split them into little groups of 3. There's roughly about 3 caps per little bundle here, and I've put it in hand hot water. There's roughly about 3 in there, like so. I'm just going to add that in, and then there's another little bundle, pop that in. And the reason I've split them up is because I'm going to do some in a dye tray, and I'm going to do some in different colours in coffee jars. A little bit of jar dyeing, so they've got some more here. Put them in there, and they're just going to sit there and float for a little while. But as I say, it'll take a few hours, and I will take a little photo shots of the progression of these actually soaking in the water. Now you can just soak them as is in the water. It takes a while. They really just want to float to the top, and you'll see that yourself when you're soaking them at home. But it does take a while for all that moisture to actually enter into the silk fibres, and for it to be thoroughly soaked. You want to just leave them. You don't need to touch them at all. So I'm going to add in, you don't have to, but I am going to add in a little bit of detergent, because it acts like it can act like a binder for the dyes to adhere to the silks. Now you shouldn't have a problem. I will soak the tussar silk without any, when I do this section with the tussar silk that I've got upstairs. I'll pop up and get that, and I'll put that in a bowl as well, and then leave that overnight. But I won't put washing up liquid in that one, and then we'll jar dye these tomorrow, and I will show you the results. But I'll take photographs as they go, and you can see some of it, the water moisture starting to penetrate in, but there's still quite a lot of sections that you can see straight away aren't soaking. But it does need a fair few hours for all that moisture to completely saturate through into those fibres. And the best thing to do that is just put them in the bowl. I've done hand hot first, because as you know, even with wool, if you put the wool into cold water, it will just float. But if you put it into warm water, it seems to penetrate the fibres a lot quicker. And then it doesn't matter if the water gets cold. It's the same principle with this one as well. So I'll catch back with you once these are completely soaked tomorrow, and then we'll get them dyed up. Okay? Okay, so we're in the sink, because this could be a bit of a messy job, and you may want to get yourself some marigolds. Okay? So I have soaked overnight some tussar silk, okay, as seen in the picture, and some mulberry silk caps. And what I want to do today is actually get them dyed. So I'm going to do 2 different ways of doing this today. I'm using, just grab myself a little teaspoon. I'm using sage, citric acid dyes. And I'm going to put in some of this sage green into this jar here. There's warm water in here. It's just over half. I'm going to put a little bit more. Just over half of the jar is filled with just nice warm water. Lukewarm. You can use hot. It doesn't really matter. You want to really do it lukewarm, because you're going to be managing this fibre in a minute. So I've got some tobacco Dharma dye, and I like this one because the colour does split, so I thought it'd be really quite interesting and pretty to do that with these on this experiment. And then I've got some lilac Dharma dye, and I'm going to put that in there, and that one can sometimes split as well, and with purpley pinky sort of bluey tones. Excludes the clanging. I'll just give that a stir. Just give that a stir. Now I've not put the citric acid in yet, I will do that. I'm going to pop that over there. I will do that when I'm ready to go. So I will get a scoop though, just to get going. I will need it in a moment, but not at this moment in time. So I'm just going to get my scoop and fill it with citric acid. So I'm ready. Okay, right, this is the fun and seriously messy part. So what I want to do is, here's my fibre, my acid. I'm going to put some of that in the bowl and put in just a silk in the bowl. Now, why do I want to use a jar with the dye in? Well, it's a really nice way to dye your wools, bambury. So you literally, oh, look at that. I'm stuck to the outside of my flaming jars. Could have done that if I tried. It's a really nice way to dye up different fibres in a jar so you get a sort of a colour batch. But really what you want to do is, because the fibres have soaked overnight, you're looking, see, you've got this, so the light's not brilliant, but you should be able to get the gist of what I'm doing. And I want to massage that dye into those fibres and that tussar silk so that they penetrate all the way through. And potentially, and I will show you in a minute, I don't want to end up with I don't mind it being variegated dye, so it's like darker spotches and lighter spotches, but what I'm trying to avoid is areas where the dye hasn't took. Hence, you really want to dye it overnight. This one's a tussar silk unbleached, so it's in its natural state, and it's like a lovely fawny colour, which you can see in that tray there. And I'm trying to make the dye penetrate all the way through those fibres. Now, what I'm going to do is get some of my citric acid, put some in this jar here, and then I'm going to add my fibre into the jar, like so. Some of you may have done solar dyeing before, so you know what I'm looking for. So the citric acid is in the bottom of that, like so. I'm going to pour the remainder of this dye on the top of there, and I end up with that jar full with my fibre inside it, like that. And we'll put that to one side for now, because my gloves keep sticking to the side of the jar and I really need my hands free to be able to do what I want to do. Right, so the next one, again, here's that tobacco. I'm going to pour that straight into my old bowl. We've still got some dye pulp in that. Hold on a second. Try and melt that down a little. There we go. I haven't got any left in there now. Again, stuck to my jars. So get myself some tussar silk. Can you see the natural colour of the tussar silk when it's unbleached? So put that in with there, and take some silk cap sections. There we go. Try and separate that one. Is it possible? Yeah, there we go. Put that in there like that. And again, the water's still warm from the kettle, and I can massage those fibres and let that penetrate in. At the same time, the fibres are now sat there in that other jar that we've just done with the sage, and those fibres are penetrating in. The dye is penetrating into those fibres while it's sat there in that lukewarm water. And we've got this tussar silk, because it's completely drenched through, it's soaking in there without any resistance to the dry sections. Let's see, look at that, looking lovely. Right, so you just give it a good massage for a minute or two. I need to go and get some citric acid, so let me just take this glove off a minute. I'll put that back on in a minute. Now, I'm not using a full scoop worth of citric acid, probably about, I don't know, 2.5 grams of citric acid in there. You don't need a lot because I'm not dyeing a lot. Oh, sugar. I'm not dyeing a lot of liquid, so I'm putting that in there. There's probably the equivalent of about, I don't know, 30 grams of fibre in each of these. So pour that in there, like so, like that. I don't mind if it's run through the sink. We can rinse that in a second. Let's give it a rinse. There we go. Mind you, it's just a colour stock solution, so it's not going to stain my sink. Okay, and then last but not least, we have got this lilac in here. Put that one to one side and get the last of these fibres in there. And go unravel this Tussah silk section. So we've got mulberry silk caps and Tussah silk in there. So what did I do? Yesterday I soaked these fibres overnight in a bowl of warm water and a dash of washing up liquid. But if you haven't got any, don't worry, it'll still work. You'll still be able to do this. It's just, there's a theory out there that if you add just a little dash of washing up liquid or Synthropol to a silk, it helps it adhere to the fibres. But you can dye silks without having that in there anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just massaging these fibres for a wee bit longer. There we go. That's cool. And automatically you've got two different shades. See, there's the silk caps, it's really quite dark. And there is the Tussah silk, which is a bit more mauvey. Right. So again, put them fibres into there. So if there's any dye pigment that hasn't struck to the fibres going into the jar now, well, with the remainder of the dye stock, it will work its way in there without a problem. Right, so we'll take them off now. Did we put citric acid in that one? I don't think we did. We'll put it in now. Just put a little bit in the top, like so, and that will seep all the way through into the middle. So bear with me a second. So what I've got here now is just a normal stainless steel pot filled with water about halfway. I just want to grab my jars and place them in like a bain-marie, like if you were working with jam or chutneys that you just made a batch up of, and you put it in the pot to seal the lids in the top of it. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to turn on my cooker, and the object, this will take anywhere from half an hour to an hour, depending on how much pigment, dye stock, or the strength of it, how strong it is, depends on how long it will take. But what you want to do, or what you want to see, is that green disappear from the liquid, from the liquor. Like this purple one here is really quite dark, and you can still see that it's very dark on top. I want that to go clear, and once that's gone clear, then I know that this is ready for me to take out and rinse. And that's it. That's all that's to it. Ideally I wouldn't have that much stock in there, but that's fine, it's not a problem. And that will help the process of the dye fixing to your silk fibres at the same time as and that's the clue, again, as I say, is the fact that the colour has practically disappeared from the dye stock solution that's in with your silk. And then that's it. So what do you want to do? Again, I will state, you want to soak either silk caps, mulberry silk, tussar silk, overnight in a bowl of hot water, warm water. I say warm water because that just helps to penetrate the fibres into with the heat. Sometimes if you find that you put something into cold water, it just tends to float around, and you want to leave that for 24 hours because of the structure and the way that silk's made or created in nature. It doesn't absorb water quickly, so you really want to saturate that overnight. Just leave it in a bowl at the side and leave it to do its thing. Just forget about it. You can leave it for a day or two and forget all about it. And then you take that out, just give it a squeeze, then do what I've just done, put a little, around about 2 grams of citric acid in the bottom of coffee jars will do, jam jars will do the same thing. And then make up your stock solution. You want to do it to about halfway or just over, no higher than the shoulder of the jar. Then you want to soak your fibres in there, give it a really good a big massage and a soak around, a little flip about like what you've seen me do. Once you've done that and you know that all the dye has penetrated in as far as you can get it to go, add the silk fibres back into your jar, and then the remainder of the stock from the bowl that you were using to massage it in the jar as well. So that means that any dye solution that's, dye pigment that's still left in the dye stock solution will be able to do its job and work into the silk fibres while it's being warmed up in a bain-marie. Okay, then once the colour of the dye in the water or the stock solution or the liquor has reduced and there's hardly any colour in there, either clear or practically clear, especially if you're using a turquoise or a fuchsia, you can either add a little bit more citric acid if you want, but remember, a fibre will only take as much stock solution as its structure will allow, just the exact same as any other type of fibre, like sheep or goat or whatever. Okay, it will still only take so much, so you don't want to overdo it on your dye stock solution. Don't go overboard just because it's in the jar and you think it's going to penetrate more. It won't really. You're just going to be ending up with the stock solution, the liquor not clearing enough. And then you just rinse it as usual, but we'll get back to you with that. I will time this now to how long from when I started. Let me just have a look at the clock. From the time I started doing this bain-marie, now that water's just got to warm up. So we are talking 10 o'clock. So I will time how long it takes for these pigments to disappear and evaporate, fade into the fibres, and then we'll see, and then you'll be able to get a rough idea of how long it can really take. Okay, now the sage isn't a very, very strong pigment. The tobacco can be quite strong, and the lilac one, depending, but I did put quite a bit of that powder into there, so who knows. I'm going to go for half an hour to 40 minutes. I'm letting this heat up now, but you don't want it to be where the glass jars are bubbling all over the place. You want to have it on a real simmer where the bubbles are just popping up, and that's all you want to do. You don't want it bubbling and the jars clanging. So I'll get back to you in a bit once these are ready for coming out, and then you'll be able to see what the water should be looking like as well for me. So I'm just going to turn that down because it's on my biggest ring, and they will start clanging and the water will start popping out the pot in a minute. Right, so I'll catch you in a sec. So we've got this bit of a roll going on in this water. It's on the lowest temp that I can get it on, but I've got to this point now that my sage jar, can you see that the water's clear? I'll show you an example. This is the one with the tobacco dye, and it's still showing up on my, see, it's still got a yellow glow in the background, so that needs a little bit longer. This is the lilac one, and it's really, really clear. You see the back of the silver spoon? It's clear, so they can come off. That one can stay in there for a little bit longer. So let's see if they're too, oh, they're not too bad actually. So I'll lift that up and I will put that in there. to cool down, and this one as well. Lift that up and put that over there. So though the water's like not well, it is actually, it's really clear. This one needs a little while longer. I could at this point now put in a little bit more citric acid. Just a touch, just a little bit, not a lot. There's barely a gram on that, and we'll just give that a little dunk around like so, and we'll let that get into the water, and we're looking for that to go clear like the others, but there's still colour in that water. So I'll give that another 15 minutes, and then I'll take that out regardless of whether the dye pigment's completely disappeared or not. Okay, so here is the tobacco one. So you can still see there's a bit of colour out of there, but it's really a lot clearer than it was when it had that yellowy tinge. So it's almost done. So let's get that whacked in as a bowl with some warm water, and a little bit of fabric conditioner. There is the teal one, and that's come out clear as well. You can see it in the bottom of the jar there. See, hold on a second. Get that put into here. Oh, a little bit of a sugar with one hand. Oh, you can get that out. I might have to just pull it out with my hand. Oh, sorry. There we go. And we'll leave that in there to soak. And if there's any residue dye still sat in that needs to come out, it will do. And then same with the one that was done in this tobacco leaf colour. Okay, so there's a bit of residue. You can see, a second, yeah, a bit of residue. So that may need another rinse once we've got this gone. That's fine. So that's what I'll do. So at least 2 rinses of that. You want the water to be clear completely, to know that it's completely washed out and the pH balance is back to what it should be. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, there's still green in there. That's fine. So I'll just leave that for a few minutes, rinse it out, and then I'll dry it. And then I'll do a tray dye one next, once I've just spoke about what it looks like once it's dried. So there you go. There is the results of the dyed lilac one. So you can just see the undertones, a sort of pinky colour in there, and the purple shades, bit of blue, purpley blue in there. But that's because I know that dye splits, so I'm quite happy with that. Now, what I was trying to avoid, this is a dyed Tussar silk from a tray where I've just literally soaked it along with the wool and then thrown it in. And you can see that there's still a lot of white in this one, like so, right? But in comparison to this one, it's got saturation of dye all the way through it. Okay, there's you might get a couple of sections that are really pale, but otherwise that's dyed, that's done, that's perfect. That is exactly what I'm looking for, something that looks like it's penetrated all the way through. So it just goes to show, soaking for a couple of hours is fine, it's not a problem. But all I've got now on this one is that it's only penetrated the outer areas of the silk. But by soaking it for the 24 hours or longer if you want to, then that is actually created a really nice looking dyed silk. So there we go. So I'll go and get the tray out and put the dye in there, and we will see the results of that one and the others once they're dried. Okay, so I have now got in the tray the Mulberry silk caps either side, and then the Tussar silk in the middle. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of citric acid, which is more than adequate. Now, I'm not looking for a actual solid dye in this little dye tray. I'm going to just do a bit of sprinkling. I'm quite happy to look spotted or tie-dyed or whatever. I'm just sprinkling in the fibre any which way I feel like it. I'm just going to sort of aim for down here a little bit more and just see how it goes. I've done the solid and I'm quite happy the way it's turned out, and I will show you the results at the end so you can see how this looks as well. What else have I got? I've got this one here, which is a nice a bit of speckling on this one, and I'm just doing a little line across. This is cream soda. It's supposed to come out like a yellowy fawn colour. Sometimes it comes out green, depends on what batch. And then I have got champagne here, so I'll put some of that in there. And as I say, I'm just looking for something really pretty, something that I can work with in blending or maybe felting, maybe for a project some way down the line. I'm just going to sprinkle a bit more there. And then the other one I have got is a grey. It might turn out pretty, who knows. One more, this one here, and I'm going to sprinkle that all along in this section here, like that. And we'll just let the temperature of the water do what it wants. I'll do a little more sprinkle of grey around here, and if it wants to speckle, perfect. If it wants to splodge out and amalgamate with the other colours around, even better. I really don't mind how it looks. So I'm going to turn the heat on now and let it do its thing. There we go. I'll leave that for a minute while it just gets the heat up, because that's freezing cold water in there now. Just wash my hands, put my dyes back in my box. There we go. Tidy it up while that's heating up. It shouldn't take long because it's only in a shallow bath of water. Might need to give it a little turn around, which is fine. I have got my tongs here to do that very thing. I could give it a little bit of a poke. Dye penetrates a little bit further down. If you wanted to do that, you could do. There's still little sections that are speckled. So this is just an experiment. It's just having a little mess around, a little play about. With the colours, see what comes out. No. So once this is ready and the colours are fixed to the silks and it's no longer bleeding, then I'm just going to rinse it in the sink like I did the others and then get that dried. So I think really, so quite literally sitting here watching paint dry, I'm going to switch off for now, and I will get back to you with the results of what these all look like once they're dried, which will be tomorrow now. And I'll catch you then. So toodle pips till the morning, or I'll see you in a sec. Right, so all the silks have dyed, and I'm really pleased with how they've come out. So I just want to show you a comparison. These are just the silks that have been dyed in the tray when I've literally just thrown them in the sink and soaked them with my wools, and they've not been completely soaked through and saturated. Okay, so there you always end up, you can still see the natural. And this was a bleached tussar silk, so you've got touch of the colours on the outside, which really is pretty as anything when you're working with it blending, because it gives you like an ombre sort of look with pops of this natural through it. Okay, especially if you're working with a natural or a really pale pastel sort of color, it looks absolutely stunning. And I do blend a lot of a lot of my bats up like that. Okay, here's another example where that one has gone through a little bit because maybe it's been soaked a bit longer. So yeah, so the benefits of soaking it overnight, definitely do it. Okay, because you will get results like this. This is the tussar silk that I dyed up in the sage, and remember I said to you that the colours will sort of pop out with the undertones that's in this. So there must be a sapphire in there somewhere, because it definitely didn't go in my tray. When you look through the insides of them, the colour has saturated all the way through. I'm definitely not spotting any actual creams. You might get sections where it's really pale. Okay, but like there, you've got some silvery tones. It's just where it's curled in on itself while it's been in the jar. Definitely do it. Worthwhile. I can't think of any better way to do this. You can dye them in the tray. You can dye them in the pot if you want to, and do it as a solid colour. But like I showed you with the video when I was just adding colours willy-nilly to the tray, this is one of the silk caps. Now the dyes didn't penetrate all the way through, even though it had been soaked the exact same length of time as the tussar silk. But you're getting this gorgeous colourway, which is perfect. It's really clingy, which is perfect for felting and things like that, and spinning with it. It's going to look fantastic spun up. Okay, but it's not got the same penetration of dye pigment throughout it. It's not completely solid. Maybe it's because I just speckled it, probably. But it does give you an alternative look if you want to use different colours on your silk caps, or on your dyeing your silk as well. So this is the result of me dyeing the silk in there, and you've got little pops of colour in there, little speckles and stuff like that. You've got little bits of grey and pink, and then the goldy colours and the mossy lichen gold and things like that. So that's come out. It's pretty. There's nothing wrong with it, but it just, by dyeing it in the tray, you get an alternative of what potentially you're going to end up with. So you could put it in a tray and you've got it filled up and you've got your colour in there, and it's just a solid colour that's in the tray. You may find that it dyes up similar to this, but I would say that you're probably still going to get sections where it's got a bit of natural coming through. But I'll do that another time. Okay, we'll do that test again. And this, as I say, I was using dyes that I know that would sort of break a little bit in the dye bath with the natural colour undertones. This was Tobacco Leaf from Dharma Dyes, and I love how it's come out with these coppery bronzy tones. Now Alison asked a while ago how she can make her fibre, her blended bats look metallic now without using sparkle, i.e. Angelina. Now Angelina's not going to give you a metallic look anyway, is my opinion. You want to use your plant-based fibres and your silks that are going to have a sheen, they're going to give you a metallic effect. That's the best thing to do. You want to go and get yourself as well, Alison. Go to Dina's Home of is it Dina's Home of Crafts. She's based in Birmingham. She's online. It's where I buy all my Dharma dyes from. And get yourself tobacco. Okay, there's a tobacco leaf, or it's called tobacco. And get yourself a pot of that, and you will get your coppery colour from that one. Okay, it's the best colour that I can find for giving me coppery, bronzy sort of tones. And then dye up the Tussar silk in the jar, like what I've done on this video. And that will give you the best results for the effect and the look that you want. So I hope that helps your question. You can do it with plant-based fibres as well. But stick with Tussar silk's cheaper than mulberry silk, and it's nicer to work with. Mulberry silk is very shiny, very slidey, slightly different from this one when it comes to working with it, because you may find when you're spinning it, it comes out in more sections than this one does. This one's quite happy. It's got a little bit of a crimp to it, you see. Can you see that there's more of a texture to this fibre rather in comparison to mulberry silk? And I do have some. Where do I put it? Mint. Grade A mulberry silk. I have grade A mulberry silk here. Now, it's got a halo to it, but if you can just about make out those strands, which is going to be really, really hard, they're more straight, and it's really, really glossy, very, very slippery. So it doesn't always grab onto the wool fibres when you're working with it, okay? But with the Tussar silk, I'll unravel this one again. It's still lovely and shiny, but you can see there's a lot more crimp in it. There's a lot more texture in the strands of fibre, and that does seem to adhere to your wool more. And when you're blending with it, don't paint it on the back drum. Spread it out as much as you possibly can and feed it in through the liquor like you would do your wool anyway. That's the best way to work with this. And then there is the silk cap that came out the dye jar with that. Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous coppery colour, coppery bronze, antique gold, really pretty. Better stick this mulberry silk back in me. That's for more jar dyeing in a few months' time. So here's the results of the lilac that I put in there, and this one's come out really pretty. So we've got, it's not quite sections of natural colour. That's not natural. It's actually got a very, very cloudy light purple to it, but otherwise it's about as solid dyed as you're going to possibly get. I could have maybe spent a bit more time moisturizing the fibre and not rubbing them together in the bowl and the sink. I could have maybe done one at a time. That might have helped. And then I could have maybe opened up and teased the silk, because they always come quite compacted together. So maybe I could have done that. That's an experiment for another time. Remind me later down the line when I mention I'm going to do jar dyeing again. Yeah, so that's really pretty. It's not split too much. It's more sort of faded. You've got gradients. You've got different shades of it throughout, darker and lighter shades. But that is so pretty. I was expecting that to split with slightly more forget-me-not blues and then hints of pinks in the background, like the silk cap. The silk cap has got these bluey tones with the pinks in there as well. That's what I was expecting the Tussar silk to come out like. So that's more split tones, but it's so pretty. Really, really, really love that. So yeah, that is the synopsis. So what do you think, ladies and gentlemen, if there's any gentlemen out there watching this another date? I know I'm supposed to spin these. I've got to build up my confidence. I have been actually looking for ages for Shikara. but they're fucking expensive, really expensive, and the only way I can get them now is through Etsy coming in from India, and I just don't fancy paying the customs. I don't want to pay the customs on it. So yeah, so bear with me. I will spin them, or spin the caps a later date. I'm going to have a little try, see if I can spin it on my spindle, my drop spindle, or my Turkish spindle. Excuse my girls, the house is shaking every time they run in. And then I'll have a go, see if I can spin it on my spinning wheel. I'm not going to say I can, because I've never spun silk like that before, but we'll give it a go. I think it's going to definitely be over the finger, so an over the finger fold on spinning, especially the tissue silk. But I will in another video. I promise I'm going to sort that out. So the next video you'll see come up in the next couple of weeks, because it takes me, this video's taking me about 3 days to get it, sort of 3-4 days to get this filmed for what, half an hour. That's how long it takes to put these videos together. So the next video I'm going to do is the mill yarn versus hand spun yarn video again, but this time I'm going to do a bat. I know I said I was going to do the organic merino, and I am going to do the organic merino, but that can wait to March. What I thought would be nice is if I do the superwash merino. Okay, it's called, have I got it here? I think it's Bionic. Yeah. Bionic 4-ply superwash merino blended with nylon. And that's a really good go-to for a lot of you guys out there that like to use merino nylon blend for your socks. So that's what I'm going to do next, because I'm going to blend up a bat, and I'll show you how I do it and get the ratios done as well, and then I'll go off and spin it, so you don't have to sit and watch me do that, and then we'll dye them up and we'll see what it looks like. Now superwash is a tricky so-and-so for dyeing, and the only reason is the dye streaks really quickly, so we'll have to see what we do with that. If you want to put down any colour suggestions of what you'd like me to do that next yarn with, please put them down in the comments. I want to do a Q&A either the end of this month or the beginning of March. I'm about to put up my Easter bundle sets as well. Again, I have been asked if I will do them this year, because I've had a couple of years off from doing them with all family stuff going on in the background over the last 2 years. So I'm in a position now mentally that I can cope with that. So I will be, watch out for that. I will be putting the listings up on the website, and I will hopefully get an email out. I think I'm going to go with Easter flower spring colours type thing. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go with this year. So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to go. Easter colours, springtime colours. The last time I did my Easter bundle sets was a couple of years ago, and I did bridal flowers, which was really lovely, because they were like peaches and pinks and things like that, and corals and teals and leaf colours in there, so they were really pretty, and it really looked gorgeous together. So I'm going to do sort of Easter blossom, I think it's going to be the name of it, or spring blossom. So I'll go and sort that out. I'll get the pictures sorted out, and I'll put the listing up later on this week, so watch out for that. But do remember, you cannot use the discount code on those, though I would appreciate your suggestions. If I do when I do the Easter bundles, would you prefer 4 100-gram bats, or would you prefer 7 50-gram bats? So one will be 350 grams and one will be 400 grams. Please do let me know in the comments below. I really do appreciate your suggestions on this topic. I did ask on my Instagram the other week, and I didn't really get far with any encouragement. Oh dear. So yeah, that's where I'm stuck now, as a dilemma. So I'll watch out for you putting your suggestions down below, and then I will sort that out on the listings. Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday it'll go on there. All depends on the feedback. Otherwise I'm just going to wing it and go with whatever my brain says, which is easiest. Probably the 4x100-gram bats, which is a nice amount to do over a long weekend for Easter. Right, that's me waffling again as usual. Joe Gumbugger off. I'm going. I will catch you in a week or two. Well, it'll be 2 weeks for you. It depends on when you watch this now anyway, because yeah. So what day are we on now? We are on the second weekend in February. that's going quick, and before we know it'll be March. I haven't even got stuck in my garden yet. I need to get out there, but I'm worried about all the moths and caterpillars and things, because I leave my garden to just turn into a bit of a jungle over the winter months, because it's good for nature and for the birds, because they can go find spiders and stuff like that. Right, she's off one again. Right, I'm going. I will take care of myself. You take care of yourself, and I will catch you in about a week's time with the blending of the mill yarn versus handspun yarn episodes. Take care for now. Bye.